Hello, this is Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople and Points Nearer. And I'm pushing Brando's this show here. He's got a great podcast. Listen to Brando, what he's saying. He's making sense.
You know where you are!
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 399. My name is Brando. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ian Hunter. How are you, sir?
One off 400. Congratulations.
It's crazy. But this is as monumental as just a number. I mean, to get to speak with you, Mr. Hunter, Ian, legend in this business for decades to come, and just the fact that you're still doing it and excited to talk to you about Defiance today. So, if I may ask, where are you located today, or is that a mystery?
No, I'm in Connecticut today. I just got back last night. Yeah, I was in New York. I just got back up here. I got a house in Connecticut.
Okay, Whereabouts in New York? Because that's where I am. I'm in Queens.
I was on 63rd.
Oh, okay. I'll pretend I know where that is. I'm lucky. I don't know. I'm like Mr. Magoo. You spin me around. I don't know where I am. I'm an embarrassment to New Yorkers. I need a GPS to go everywhere. But I found it interesting just to read up on the history of this album that I didn't know that you lived in Connecticut, which not too far away. What drew you there, though? Now, obviously, given your accent, you're not from the area. So how long have you been living in Connecticut? What drew you there?
What drew us here was we were living in New York, and I was out with my youngest son on the bus, and two guys were walking down the street, a young one and an old one, and the old one turned around and shot the young one. And I put my hand over my son's eyes as quick as I could. I don't know if he saw it or not, but I just thought, I'm out of here.
Wow.
And we moved up, we lived a few places north of New York, not far, an hour, an hour and a half.
I gotcha. Well, that'll do it. That'll definitely do it. It is dangerous out here. Well, we're starting off in a very dangerous so is that maybe that's part of what sparked this album, where you have songs of just being Defiance and I Hate. Is that where moments like that, a traumatic thing like that, is that where you kind of find your need to be creative and get these feelings out through song, or am I overthinking as usual?
No, I hate is basically, the heavy left, heavy right, idiots. I know about idiots. I was an idiot for about 10 years, so I know all about it. Shut up. It's not good. This Twitter stuff is not good. I'm not particularly political, but, like the bomb was invented. It wasn't invented to bomb people. It was meant to bomb rock to get coal. Nobody thought it would be used for other means. And it seems like TikTok's the latest bomb. Because for as much good as it does, it's like it's not good for the other end.
I really do agree with you. I've often said that if it wasn't for my job, this podcast, that I would be done with social media. Yeah, there are some good things to it where you can connect with friends you haven't spoken to in a while. I get, cat videos, things of that nature. But I guess
we managed. We had phones. We managed before.
Sure. But that's a good.
It's too fast for humans.
You're right.
It's just getting too quick. I know I'm an older guy, so I'm supposed to say that. But when you say you can communicate with your friends, yeah, you can. But you used to, we used to have the letters. We used to have the phone before. And it's like I can't afford an apartment. No, we'll go into lodgings. That's what we did.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And you know what? Maybe it's because I have an old soul. You're a few months away from being 84 years young, right? Or 85?
84.
84. Wow.
Don't add to this.
Sorry. I was so 84, and I'm a few months away from being 40. However, I appreciated everything you just said completely. So that kind of segues into the album, because someone like you who's been making music the way it used to be made, a band kind of playing live together in the studio and just the creativity that comes out. But the history of this album wasn't like that. It was it came out because of the pandemic, and we're on Zoom today, and you're getting pieces from different musicians, and you're not. So what was that like for you to kind of put together an album perhaps different than any other album you've ever done?
Well, I did Once Bitten the same way. It has its pluses and its minuses. When you do an album, normally you go in the studio and you're up against the clock, and very often a rhythm section don't even know what you're talking about. They're busy, they're busy finding their parts, and they want to play them properly, so they don't have to do it again and again and again. When you do it backwards, you put the vocals on first and all the rest of it. It sounds a bit clinical, but it's not in a way, because the guitar player and the bass player and the drummer now know what you're talking about. There's a lyric, and there's also the way you phrase. A drummer will play to the way you phrase. I mean, I've had 2 or 3 of them ring me up and say, "Don't change the vocal, whatever you do," because they've played to that vocal. And so it's back to front, but the musician gets more of a shot. In Once Bitten, Twice Shy, the drums were the last thing to go on. And he sat there and watched everything build, and he got it on the second take. So either way, there's pluses and minuses, because when you normally do it in a studio, the great thing is mistakes. That's what sometimes makes a song special, mistakes. So you miss that when you do it this way. But in this particular instance, it was COVID. Nobody could go anywhere.
Right.
Everybody was. My band didn't have home studios. And my manager said, there's some people that do have home studios, Slash has got his own studio. He'll do something, And Billy Gibbons has got his own studio. And so they were all home. They weren't doing anything. And that's how it started out,
Who was the first person you reached out to? Was it Slash?
I don't know who reached out. I didn't. I was told by, Ross Halfin, the photographer.
Yes, very famous. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, Ross is a mate of mine, and he likes what I do. So he rang me up and he said, Slash is interested. Have you got anything that you could do for Slash? And then Billy Gibbons too. And then it's a question of which song you send to which artist. If there's any intelligence involved, that's what. Sending the right song to the right artist. And I have a mate, Andy York, who co-produces with me, and we would just decide which artist to send which song to.
That's got to be a lot of fun, in a way, to say, okay, this one's going to go to Slash, this one's going to go to Billy Gibbons, this one's going to go to Johnny Depp. So that's pretty special. So did you ever get a song back and you're like, you know what? Maybe this person will be better, and I can put this on this track. Did you ever switch things around like that at the big early stages?
Yeah, we had one interesting situation where Taylor Hawkins had done a bit too much cymbals on this particular track, and how do you tell Taylor Hawkins, calm it down a bit, and meanwhile, Billy Bob Thornton was singing on it. But Billy's a drummer, and he has his own studio. So Billy said, "Look, I'm not as good as this guy, Taylor, but he's too busy, And he said a really nice drum track, Billy Bob. And then Taylor rings me up and goes like, "I'm thinking it's a bit too wild on this track. Let me do it again." So now I've got like Taylor doing it great, and I got to take Billy Bob off. Because Billy Bob's done it nicely, but Taylor's the governor, and so I mean that's an when you're dealing with people you don't want to upset,
You're right. I understand that. They're all friends of yours, and I read a quote when you were talking about the album that you were kind of surprised or just like you couldn't believe that all these people said yes. But here I am. I'm thinking, of course they are. They want to work with the legendary Ian Hunter. Does that ever dawn on you?
No.
Or is it just like you're all in the same family and you don't even think about that, saying, oh, this person should say yes to me, you know?
No, I was 10 years out with a ramp band. We did albums and we did tours. I didn't even, my 70s, I never saw. We just, we toured and then we did an album, then we toured, then we did an album. I didn't even realise time was going by, and I didn't realise I was approaching legendary status. I never even thought about it. Finished up on my 80th birthday at the winery in New York. We did a few nights there. And then two things happened in the September, COVID, and I got tinnitus. And so that slowed everything down, And that's how this whole thing started, because, the Ram Band didn't have studios and these guys did.
How is, if I may ask, how has the tinnitus been for you? I can't even imagine what that's like living with.
Well, it's a bit of a shock the first year, You run around and try and get cures for it, which there is none,
Right.
You get used to it, and you can get hearing aids that lessen it. It's basically a frequency. So if you can get a hearing aid with a frequency that can sort of cancel out that, the COVID, the tinnitus frequency, that would be fabulous. But you can't. But you can get it to lessen. It'll cut it by half, And I'm used to it now. You do get used to it.
Ah, okay.
But you don't know really what's going to happen on stage, stuff like that. I can't use an ears. I know that.
Okay, so I guess that does beg the question, when you got used to it enough where you're able to record and sing, but you don't think you can do that live?
If it was quiet.
If it was quiet.
It's probably acoustic, but the way I'm going to go, which I probably would have done anyway, to be honest with you, because I'm not a young man anymore. Nobody wants to see a 85-year-old jumping around,
I beg to differ. I saw B.B. King when he was 86, and he was awesome. Yeah. So that's something else too.
Yeah, but he done. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like the acoustic idea, Q&A, something like that.
Well, that's a good idea too. As long as you're going out and hopefully not letting this stop you. So is that the plan?
It does like noise. It likes noise. Tinnitus, if you go out and you have a night out and you have a good time and you talk to your mates and everything, it quietens it right down. It does not like quiet. The tinnitus hates silence. So when you wake up in the morning, it's at its worst.
That's so strange. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you put the radio on, this is for people who may have tinnitus that listen to your podcast. If you get it really bad in the morning, shove the radio on, top blast, no matter what crap channel it is. Put it on really, and maybe 20 minutes later, your tinnitus will subside dramatically.
Wow.
It likes sound. The only thing is, it don't like too much sound.
I'm sorry you're having to deal with this. That seems frustrating, but you seem to have a good attitude about it.
And everybody's different. You know what I mean? So it's hard to advise anybody else.
Sure.
But hearing aids do help, and like I say, activity helps. It doesn't like silence.
Doesn't. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So first thing in the morning is not good.
Well, I'm assuming as somebody who's always had music in their life, and everyone wants to talk to you, you always have sound around you other than when you first wake up. So
it's not too bad.
Not too bad, I guess. So other than, of course, promoting this record, which is coming out later this month on the 21st, I believe. And that's just part one. So is it just part two the plan, or do you want to go acoustic and maybe do some Q&A? Is that part of the plan too, or is that too far in advance?
Part two's louder than part one.
Oh, louder. Okay. I love that.
Well, it's a bit more rockier, a bit more I guess. I tried to keep away from politics because of COVID and the Ukraine. You know what I mean? People are not feeling that happy anyway. So with this record, the part one, I tried to keep it up. But my natural inclination is slightly less happy than that, and then it sort of comes out a bit more on part two.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's way down the road, though, part 2. Or is it we're going to see it sooner rather than later?
We did about 70% because Andy York is John Mellencamp's lead player, and John's out doing, I don't know, 70 dates. So maybe July we'll get it finished.
Cool.
Part 2. It's about 60%, 70% done.
And is it all in the secret vault of who's going to be on that record with you?
Well, some are the same.
Okay.
Some are different. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask about some of the people that are on this record. I found it really unique, the fact that you got Slash on the lead track, Defiance, which is still in my head, actually, since I heard it. I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to ruin it for you.
Yeah.
But you put Duff not on the same song. Obviously, his Guns N' Roses bandmate, but you put him on Angel. What was the decision behind that? And that song along with Duff, you got Brad Whitford, and one of the songs that Taylor Hawkins plays on as well.
It wasn't. This is typical. This is the great thing about doing something like this, because you never know what's going to happen. You know, Slash just sent it back as was. You know, so we sent it to Robert Trujillo. You know, for Metallica, because I'd done a thing with Robert for Jaco Pastorius. He did a movie about Jaco Pastorius, and so Robert was kind enough to do the bass. And then, though they're in different studios, if you listen to the bass and Slash, particularly at the end of solos, it's quite amazing what goes on, considering different times in different studios. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as far as the Guns N' Roses thing goes, Taylor's supposed to play the drums on Angel, right? It comes back with Duff McKagan on bass. He never told me about this. It just came back with Duff on bass. He's done all the harmonies on it, Taylor. And then he's done, Waddy's playing all the lead stuff right till the very end. And then you get this great guitar line comes in at the end. And that's Taylor as well. So he not only plays drums on stuff, he sings all the stuff, and he does all this. And that's why Duff's on one track and Slash is on the other.
Oh, that's so funny, because you didn't even know Duff was going to be on there. That was Taylor's doing.
Plus, Robert used the same bass that Jaco Pastorius used.
Got it. Oh,
on
wow.
All American Alien Boy many, many years ago. Yeah, he must have got hold of the guitar somewhere over the years.
Very
it's
cool.
the first fretless. Yeah.
Very cool. A couple questions within that. I was hoping you could talk about your friend, the late great Taylor Hawkins, and the relationship that you had with him, because I'm sure to you, like the rest of the world, it was a complete shock to lose him so young.
It was a kick in the gut. I mean, I didn't really know him that well. I mean, I'd seen him in LA. I met him in LA, and we did a lot of phoning, obviously, around the time he was doing, because he wanted to do everything. He wanted to do the whole 2 albums. But then as COVID started dying off, the Foo started making a move again, So he wound up, he did 7. He did 3 on the first and 4 on the second.
Okay.
But the guy was, have you ever met Joe Elliott?
I've interviewed him, but I have not met him. He's just over the phone.
Well, he's same sort of thing. Highly enthusiastic, encyclopedia. Just a great guy in the prime of his life. I mean, he was doing Ozzy, he was doing Iggy, he was doing, obviously the Foos. He just 24, and plus he has a family.
Yeah.
And right in the middle of that at 50, it was awful what happened.
Yeah, we lose so many of the greats in our rock and roll world, and at least we can talk about a couple of survivors that, it being Slash and Duff, who are on your record, they've notably have spoken about their path. Do you have maybe a closer friendship with Slash, and where that goes back to, maybe the first time you met them? And also, I would just love to know your perspective on Guns N' Roses, like when Appetite for Destruction first hit, like what you were you?
Well, yeah, them and Nirvana saved the day. I mean, rock and roll had virtually disappeared as far as I was concerned. Nirvana and Guns N' Roses, they were the only ones with the "fuck you,"
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I just remember we did the Palace in LA with me and Ronson. And Slash turns up. This is way back. This is before they were big. So Axl and Slash turn up at the gig, and they're not really turned up for us. They turned up for Steve Jones from the Pistols.
Okay.
Because he was opening for us. But then Steve had met two female mud wrestlers. So when he finished his set, he disappeared, right? So Axl and Slash are sitting upstairs, and then my youngest son was a baby at the time, and Axl actually had my youngest son on his knee, and they're both sitting there not knowing what to do. So Mick Ronson said, "Well, we'll do White Light, White Heat." So okay. So they got up with us, and we did White Light, White Heat. And Mick sang it, and me and Axl were over the side there. He was doing his sway thing. And, so we did the track, and everything went fine and everything. And then they were arguing after. I always remember, because they were young. They were kids then. And they were arguing about who could drink and who couldn't, because they had a car. And they had to take it in turns, who drove whom home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, they were arguing about that afterwards. And he's got my son on his knee, and I'm like, this is Guns N' Roses. they were in their infancy, you know. It was right at the very beginning.
Oh, that's.
But they were good. Yeah, that was the Palace Theatre. I don't know if they ever remember that, but that was the first time.
That's brilliant. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And related, this is a question from Katie. This is on Twitter. I know we don't like it, but this is how I get some information.
Okay.
She thinks, is he the reason Izzy Stradlin, that Great White covered Once Bitten, Twice Shy? Do you know about that? I don't know if he knew that song and recommended it. I don't know. I probably should ask Alan Niven, because I know him. But
apparently, the Guns N' Roses. Axl said he found the track.
Okay.
And David Niven wanted it for the band that did it.
Great White.
Because he managed Great White as well. And the track, it would have. It sold a couple of million. But if it had gone on the album that Axl wanted it to go on, it would have sold 7 million. So I'm real upset about that.
Oh, so interesting. So Axl wanted it for Guns N' Roses, but
he found the song. Yeah, he found the song. Yeah, and David Niven, and then Alan
Niven. Sorry, I don't mean to correct.
Alan Niven, a Scottish guy, right? Yeah. He sent me this horrible note.
Mm-hmm.
Over $60. Here's your blood money and something. And I'm like, I'm Scottish too. I sent the note back. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So if you next time you see him, ask him what he was on about, because I hadn't the faintest idea what he was on about.
Alan's funny. He's from New Zealand, but he grew up in England, and now he lives in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was Scottish.
That's too funny though. That's a brilliant. That's an interesting antidote, by the way. But that's kind of leads into something I was going to ask while I got you here. Just a privilege and honor to speak with you today about songs that could have been. Obviously, famously, all the young dudes came from David Bowie and suggested that. But is it true that Suffragette City as well?
Well, that came from, David. We'd split up because we were doing these horrible gigs in Switzerland, and we split up on the way home, and then David at that point was just trying to form a band. So I guess the Rats weren't together, hadn't come down as of yet. And so Pete Watts, our bass player, rang him up for the gig. And he said, but you're in Mott, and Pete said, no, we've split. And David said, you can't do that, you've got to stay together to try this song. And he gave us Suffragette City, which... we had good songs. This was a good song, but it wasn't a great song. So we turned that down, and then he came back with Dudes, which he'd been trying himself. He'd been trying it in C, a different key. We took it up to F. And what he'd done was he'd used a lot of alto. He's an alto player. So he'd done a lot of that on it. And he was fed up with the song. He hadn't... he needed new blood, fresh blood. So, Mick Ralph did that great intro, and then all the choruses were done, and then it was like, well, the choruses are boring. So I did a little kind of rap thing here and there, and that sort of made them less boring. And 2 nights at Olympic Barns, and that was it. And I think, Rock and Roll Queen, something like that was a B-side. We did 2 tracks in two evenings, yeah.
It's so fascinating just to think about that you guys were going to be done and how this song that is just carried on, because I've been in classic rock radio, it's still a staple of classic rock radio all these years later. Does that, again, to reflect earlier in the conversation, you don't seem like somebody who reflects often. You're living in the moment and going forward. Do you reflect? Do you reflect on that, being like maybe how close you could have been to maybe not turning that song down as well from David Bowie?
Oh, no.
Okay.
He sat on the floor, and we were sitting around. We as a band were always arguing. But that's the one thing we never argued about. He sat on the floor, he played that song, and we were like, yes.
Okay.
You know, I knew I could sing it. We knew it was a hit. He didn't. You know, second night, before the end chat that I did on it, he was sitting there very quiet, and what's the matter? He said, this isn't the single. One of the boys was the B-side. One of the boys is the single. And we looked at him like, you're an idiot. No, this is way ahead. It's boring. It's going round and round and round. At the end, nothing's happening. So that's when I did the little chat. Yeah, he I forget what he asked me. What did he ask me?
Oh, no, I was just asking you about just that moment. If there was a moment, like what if you said no? And it's just like an interesting decision. There's one decision.
No.
Yeah. So
it was so obvious. That song was a hit.
Okay, because you could have had another hit with Suffragette City. So that's what I was wondering if it was close with All the Young Dudes as well.
No, see what happened was radio was close to us because we'd already had a couple of singles out, and in Britain it was just the BBC. And if two singles stiffed, you weren't going to get no more airplay.
I gotcha. But that also, I guess, with the technology and we were talking about Twitter and the internet and how things have changed, and you just want to make music, and you've always been like that, and not worried about the it's like how you compared yourself. I've read that how you compared yourself to Bowie, that it was just about rock and roll. It wasn't like a business to you, but unfortunately it is a business. So one of your recent interviews there, the headline is like David Bowie and Ian Hunter were never friends, and you don't say that necessarily. You just talk about like we wouldn't hang out. He was a great guy. So, but they turned to something salacious. So, is that something you even think about at your veteran status? I don't want to say of your age, but do you even care about the press at all at this point, or is it just about the music? Or I guess what's your thoughts on clickbait? And because I have to worry about that too. I interview you. Who knows what they're going to turn it into? It's just it sucks. I try to ask fair questions and not put people in the corner.
I've been accused of all kinds of things over the years. I mean, you know, newspapers, same sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
No, David and I were not in the same neck of the woods. You know, just as personalities. You know, I had my mates, he had his mates. Yes, I went to Haddon Hall. We had a great time. I had a great time with Dave was extremely generous with his time. The year we were with him, you know, he went out of his way, and it was at a time when he was making his own way too. Do you know what I mean? So it was very generous of him to, you know, Iggy, Lou, all the different things he was doing. Normally, you know, you get an ambitious person; they're just gonna do it for themselves,
right?
Put all their energy into their own thing. David wasn't doing that. He was helping us out. He was helping Iggy out. He helped Lou out. You know.
Well, hopefully the headline from this says, you know, Ian Hunter says David Bowie generous and gracious. It bothered me saying that, you know, these negative headlines that people pick up, and just getting to talk to you and know you for a little bit. I was just wondering if that irked you at all as well, but you're used to it, so good for you.
I've been shot kittens, you know. I've been, you name it.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
no, I can't. No, it's just, you know, there's a percentage of idiots, and they're in the press as well. You know, what are you going to do?
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Life's too short.
You're absolutely right. To go back to the album before we wrap up here, is there something that you want the listener to take away from this album? Because when I first heard it, I mean, I don't know how you feel about awards and stuff, but this has to be nominated for like Album of the Year. Your voice, the way it flows, the meaning behind it, who you have on it, you know, with Jeff Beck and Taylor no longer with us. I mean, this is a special record, so I'm just curious what you want people to take away from it.
I think it's a special record, you know, and I think it's a complete record. Usually there's one I don't like.
Really? Okay.
It's there's always one on every album, you know, like and sometimes a complete album. But there's always one that's annoying, you know. But this album, I'd like people to think it was complete. That's what I'd like. A complete record, you know, like a complete album.
Which is rare nowadays because people are going on TikTok and listening to altered versions in 30 seconds. So that's why this is...
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. I don't know the last time I listened to a complete album, but I listened to all of Defiance Part 1. I definitely did, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So I'm looking forward to Part 2.
We'll thank you for that.
I'm looking forward to Part 2. Well, I'm lucky. I got to stream it first. So, but people can pre-order it now. And so is the best place, IanHunter.com for all things Ian Hunter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. And one other question, it kind of leads back to something we touched on before with the acoustic stuff. This is from Facebook, Nathan. Any chance we'll see all the young dudes played live again?
I don't know. You know, I got to finish Part 2 of this. You know, one thing at a time.
Okay.
And there's something else. There's something else going on towards the end of the year, which I can't talk about yet. But hopefully, yes. You know, we'll see. I mean, I have tinnitus. Got to get around that. You know, there's always ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, your health is first and foremost. You sound great. The album I've said sounds great, and I just really can't thank you enough for your time. And I hope we get to do this again.
Well, thanks, Brian. I appreciate that, mate.
Wow. I say this often, but what a honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to interview a great like Ian Hunter, and I can only thank you for this opportunity because this Appetite for Distortion podcast that is one away from 400, never imagined it, really never did. With all my years working in radio, and I haven't been like on the air in a long time. It's been a few years because that just kind of sucked the soul out of me, to be honest with you. Being on the air, talking between songs. Well, yeah, maybe there's a part of me that still wants to do that, and maybe we'll do that again in the future. But I just never had opportunities to do this, to interview guests, long form, to connect with fans. You know, being a part of a station, you're a part of a station. It's the whole, and I love it. It's a team aspect. But this is me. This is the guest. This is you. This is so personal, and I just would never get these opportunities if it wasn't for podcasting and what it's become, and you for giving me a reason, because if it was just one or two of you Guns N' Roses fans, I think I would just call it a day and be like, no one's listening, oh well. But that hasn't happened. So Ian Hunter, wow. And we'll see what happens for episode 400. The big thing is whether that's going to happen before or after my son is born. So that's the next phase of my life, and perhaps the podcast. He may be a future co-host. We'll see what happens. I do want to buy him a plush microphone, you know, some teething microphone, something like that, and just have him next to me when I'm doing episodes. But obviously, I'm going to need to take a break for a bit because I just don't know. I've never done this before. My first kid, I was crying and changing pooper diapers, especially when my wife goes back to work after a couple months. I just don't know what the future holds as far as how frequent in the next episode. It's really going to be the Axl version of soon is the word. But as I always say, keep your eyes and follow. Conversation continues in between the broadcasts on social media. Facebook.com/The AFD Show, at The AFD Podcast on Twitter, Appetite for Distortion on Instagram. We're also on TikTok. Yes, I'm not doing dances. It's basically, if you follow and subscribe on YouTube, which I heavily encourage you to do, it's the videos I make, the short clips. You know, what I've been focusing a lot on now are the YouTube shorts, as they are called now, 60-second videos, and trying to up my video editing game with just pictures and GIFs and just different things. It's just, that's not I grew up in the radio world, and now I got to combine it and then learning by myself how to do video editing. And I appreciate the feedback on it. Is really cool. So posting a lot of those on YouTube to hopefully kick up the subscriber count, and same thing on TikTok. So follow anywhere in between to see what's going on with me and baby Brownstone in a few weeks. But before we wrap up, let's do a couple segments, okay? Because if this is the last episode for a while, let's have some fun. So let's do some shotgun news.
News.
First, you may have heard about Power Trip, the big festival happening in California with Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Metallica, AC/DC, Tool. I mean, it's just holy shit. This is like a dream concert for people. It's two bands a day, and aside from the star power, think about all like the headlines and the storylines. It's almost like a wrestling thing, you know, with Guns N' Roses, who I think are going on the same day as Iron Maiden, right? What about the whole Axl didn't want to open for Iron Maiden back in the day, and Bruce Dickinson wanting to punch Axl in the mouth? What about those things? Like, what? And then you got AC/DC coming back with Brian Johnson. Is Axl going to go on stage with Brian? Like, is that going to be kind of addressed at all? Just very fascinating. So, and then Ozzy returning. Is he going to be performing in a wheelchair? We thought he was done. We don't know. So that is quite interesting. Metallica, of course, with Guns N' Roses and Metallica's history. That's just watch out for any pyro. Although, if you remember, that was Lars's fault, the whole thing. I made a YouTube short recently of Pyro Pete telling that story in 60 seconds. So if you want to hear the pyro story, the Montreal riot story in 60 seconds, I made it. I enjoy making them, actually. And then you got Tool and Guns N' Roses, or I should specifically say Maynard and Axl. There's history there. So you may know that Axl at one point had a Yoda. She was referred to as Yoda, Sharon Maynard, which is interesting because she gave Axl warning about Maynard James Keenan, that he was stealing Axl's energy, and also I guess stealing the bandmates, as Josh Freese and Billy Howardell left to go to A Perfect Circle. So she believes, she convinced Axl at least at that time, and what I've been told, that Maynard was just like an evil spirit, stealing Axl's energy. And it's just like, what? So that's obviously many years ago. So you just don't know. And Axl, who knows? The way you've always heard about him, he just may be in his own trailer and world the entire time and does not cross paths with any of these bands. But it's interesting, isn't it? So if you have the means, I mean, if I had the means, I would 100% go. But you got to pay. I mean, not aside from the fact that I'm going to have a small child at this point in time, I'd have to go across country, and it is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But if you have the means, that's a good weekend. That's a good weekend. So just for right now, the only Guns N' Roses show that I'm going to, and I'll have to get a babysitter for, is the one in New Jersey. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to going to New Jersey again, to see them again at MetLife Stadium. That's also where I'm seeing Metallica this summer as well. So I'm kind of getting a third of the Power Trip over in a couple weeks. I'm getting a version of that, I guess you could say. But I want to be able to travel. Like, if you were going to Power Trip, I want to travel with you, metaphorically speaking. So again, I'm going to do the fan reviews. Your fan reviews. So if you're going to Power Trip, perhaps if you're also going to MetLife and you want to do a review with me, if you're going to Fenway Park up in Boston, if you're going to see them somewhere else in California, if you're going to see them in, doesn't matter what state or what country, and I really emphasize that, what country that you're going to see Guns N' Roses in, and you want to review the concert, and let's just say the next day, okay? Because sometimes they do catch up with me. I noticed that last year, where I'm like, it's hard to schedule, especially when most of you have normal jobs. I don't have a normal job. I get to do mine from home, which is radio. I can record usually whenever. So let's try for the next day. But just hit me up regardless. Let's see if we could do something on social media, on email, through email, theafdshow@gmail.com, and we'll do some more fan reviews when it's appropriate. Okay, so we have, at least I can tell you that, to go forward with. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do it when my wife's home to watch the baby. I don't know if I'm gonna have to change a diaper during the episode. It's all up in the air. It's all up in the air as far as the baby Brownstone is concerned. Is it cute to nickname a baby after heroin? But baby Brownstone just sounds so cute, and it works. And it's an alliteration. I like alliterations. So that's fun to look forward to. And also something to look forward to, and part of Shotgun News, new music, not from Guns N' Roses, but from Izzy Stradlin. That's like even more of a what? I want to thank the Izzy Stradlin concert petition social media for sending me this via DM. And I know a lot of you send me Guns N' Roses news all the time on DM, whether it's on Facebook and Instagram or Twitter, which I appreciate because as somebody who does not have a producer, you are all my little producers. I will say like 90% of the time I've seen it already. So if I don't respond or just give you a thumbs up, it's just like, I don't mean to be rude sometimes. I have to keep the conversation short. Otherwise, I'm on social media all day. I can't do it. Much more than the posting. I can't always have like full-on conversations in the DMs, but I still always encourage you to do so. So they sent me an Instagram from Criteria Recording Studios in Miami. Now, I want to give credit to the hardcore Izzy Stradlin bands that knew something like this was coming, that they saw the former bandmates of the Juju Hounds. They were posting stuff. They were all in the same city, same time. Oh, what's going on here? So I was sent this. It's a recording studio with a couch. There's an amp. There's mics set up. And it says, wrapping up a week of grooviness with Izzy Stradlin in Studio A. Just a couple more guitar parts using some of Willow River's ribbons. And, hashtag Izzy Stradlin, hashtag Rick Richards, tweeting at or adding Taz Bentley, just even hashtagging GNR. What's going on here? Is there new Izzy Stradlin music on the way? I have no idea. So I did my due diligence as far as I will push as a journalist, whatever. I have a BA in broadcast journalism. Can I call myself a journalist, I think? So I did message them, the recording studio, and they were very respectful, and I was not expecting anything in there. Sorry, we can't speak. I did not ask for Izzy, because I just thought that was just too much of an ask right away. I just said if there was anybody at the recording studio I could speak with, please let me know. So they wrote back this, and it's very cool. Unfortunately, no, we can't talk. I'm not even sure if the post was Izzy approved. Usually don't post about any of our clients while sessions are ongoing. But somebody did, I guess. It hasn't been taken down, so I guess it was okay. This person said, one thing I can say was that Izzy is a very cool, respectful guy. His whole team was a joy to work with. So look at that. Confirmation. Working with Izzy on what? Don't know. Soon is the word. He may not be in Guns N' Roses anymore, but he still has that approach, I guess. Just wow. So what's going to come out first? New Guns N' Roses or new Izzy Stradlin? My prediction is they might be at the same time. I think we're going to get a couple Guns N' Roses singles this year. I think they're going to be... I have no information, by the way. This is just a total guess. Just an educated guess. Not even educated, just a guess. Maybe even more of a wish or a hope than a guess, is that we're going to get something like a Hard School and Absurd, something that was written 20 years ago and reworked on by Slash and Duff and hopefully the rest of the band as well. And that's what we're going to get. And hopefully when the tour is over, like Slash has said, they're going to finally get into a studio together to record all new music. So that's my guess. So if they're recording now Izzy and maybe with the Juju Hounds, I don't know, maybe it would be amazing if we got both by the end of the year. Wow, wouldn't that be something? New GNR and new Izzy by the end of the year. And if we get that, and if you listen to both at the same time, you could pretend it's a bigger reunion. You might also suffer a seizure if you do that. So that's pretty cool as far as Shotgun News. And another segment I want to do before I wrap up is Mr. Mailstone.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
So this is from Jason Lloyd. And where is Jason from? He is from Queensland, Australia. I have a lot of Australian listeners. That means a lot. We'll see if I ever make it there one day, because that is, 20 hours on an airplane, and you guys got spiders. I'm sorry, I can't deal with those huntsman spiders. I love watching videos of them. That's about it. A spider that is as big as a puppy, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. They may be like kind of harmless in the world. No, I'm sorry. I can't. You guys have too many friggin' creatures down in Australia. Anyway, I digress. He writes, "G'day, Brando." Sorry. "G'day, Brando." I had to do that. Bloke, hey, man, I love hearing the different ways people speak all over the world. I love it. That's why I really encourage these fan reviews. Hey, are you aware the meaning behind... First he says this, behind Slash's tattoo stating D-T-U-D. D-T-U-D, asking for a friend. By the way, I did not know that, so I had to look it up. So what it means, it's the tattoo that Slash, you may know, it's just the skull with the top hat, and with Guns N' Roses on his shoulder. I think it's maybe his left shoulder. And underneath, it says in a ribbon, D-T-U-D, drink till you drop. I'm more aware of Axl's tattoos, I guess because I'm more of an Axl guy, but I really thought about it, so I looked it up. So thank you for asking that question, and now I know. And if you didn't know, now you know. The more we know, G.I. Joe. So that's what I mean. And thankfully, Slash doesn't drink anymore. He said, man, your podcast is a revelation. I listen while mowing fucking lawns and gardening during work, and has placed 1,000 smirks upon my dial. Keep it up, man. You provide brilliant relief amongst this vanilla world. That means so much to me. You have no idea. Because I just, all the time, I just think that people don't listen. That this is, that I've plateaued. That I've reached all the people I'm going to reach. And then just, I get messages like this all the time. And it's from different parts of the world where you never know if my sense of humor or the way I speak is going to translate. You know, that was the big worry with me with just in radio. Could I really get a job outside of New York and Long Island with my accent? But just the fact that wherever you listen, just people all over the world, is just very, very cool. And I'm grateful for the translate options for on social media that I'm able to communicate with a lot of you. But that doesn't apply to Australia. We both speak English. So just I just wanted to say thank you, Jason, because I got that message this morning as I'm recording this. So again, episode 399. Don't know what's in store yet for episode 400. I do have I'm waiting to hear back from a couple people, hoping that someone big joins. Nothing I want to spoil yet, necessarily. But we'll see if it happens. You know what? One I'll say that I keep trying for is Kurt Loder. I keep trying for him. I'm never really going to know. It's more of like I pass this message along and wait to hear back, and I don't hear back. I did get a pass from Steven Adler's people. He was doing a show in New Jersey, and I kind of, I'm on Q. My podcast is on Q1043's website. A big Jersey listening base. And I think it's just he's being very careful. I believe he did like a print interview with Blabbermouth or something like that. And I get it. And I do. Sadly, it sucks, but I get it. Because no matter what, if I didn't ask him any questions about Guns N' Roses, there's always that potential for a website to turn it into something. And in this way, at least, I don't know, it's just more careful. Hoping in the future, and if anything, I'm just grateful they responded. That means a lot. No is okay. No is okay. I got a no from Extreme. It sucks, but it's okay. Like, I can deal with that. At least I know. I can move on. And if you say it in a nice way, thanks, but no thanks. I think we're going to pass this time. If I get back, hey, you fucking suck, balls. Not that it's ever happened, but that would be very unprofessional if somebody said that. But no, no is okay. It sucks, but it's okay. When things get canceled on me, I think that's when I get bummed out. Like when Duff was canceled on me for things, still bummed out about that. But I actually, speaking of which, let me end here. So in the meantime, if you would like to help out with My Sweet Child of Mine and me as this and just contribute to the podcast in general, I just set up those link tree links where if you go to my Twitter or Facebook or any of them, it's the link that's available, and it has everything on there, whether all my social medias, my YouTube, where you can listen on the links to Appetite for Horror, my horror podcast spinoff, and also my Patreon. So you can donate to my Patreon, and there actually I read you the email that was initially sent to me with the cancellation about Duff, and maybe it might provide further insight into my paranoia about how some people look at my podcast. Since then, like, I'm cool with that person to get other interviews other than Duff, but it's just a fucking bummer. So I might do more of those. I am going to do more of those, but I may do those more frequently because I don't have to worry about a guest just doing a Patreon episode. So there are a couple up there. I tell you what happened with Roxana Shirazi when she tried to take over an interview. Like, we were going to try working on an interview with the Manic Street Preachers, and she just kind of like tried to push me out of my own podcast interview. It was fucking weird. And maybe I'll post the whole story about what happened with Kip Winger. Maybe you saw my social media posts about it that were taken down, that I took down. If not, well, you'll have to listen on Patreon when I do that episode. Okay, there's a teaser for you. And also, one other thing before I get out of here, I haven't addressed this, that I slightly edited the intro music. I tweeted this, but I didn't say it on the podcast yet. So that's because of a YouTube rule change, that if you have a curse in the first 3 seconds, that they're going to like demonetize your video. And, you know, Axel going, what the fuck you are? Right away. I was like, oh shit. Nothing has happened to my channel, my videos, but I'm just playing it on the safe side because I just put so much effort into my YouTube channel and my videos that I didn't want that to be the reason it was taken down. So if you were wondering, that was why. So that does it for episode number 399. When will you see 400? Well, the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.